Here we have verse 2 of chapter 14, the Gospel of John. We have this rather well-known text in which Jesus has advised his disciples not to be disturbed, not to be troubled. Of course, this comes on the heels of his statement to Peter that he would deny Christ before the evening is over. And so that may be what triggered this comment. But then we certainly move to a much more ranging statement by Jesus, well known here. We have in. Preposition takes the dative. Here's the dative, singular, feminine, article, in the. Oikia, the feminine form of the word oikos. Here oikia means house, essentially synonymous with the masculine form of it. In the house, to. The genitive, singular, masculine article, the, and then patros, the genitive singular of pater, father. So in the house of the Father, and then mu, the first person genitive, singular pronoun, in the Father, or in the house of the Father of me. Monai, this is from monet. It means a dwelling place. It's from the verb meno, which means to remain. It therefore has to do with a dwelling place, a house, something like that. Certainly not necessarily a mansion as it was translated in the Old King James, but simply a dwelling place. In the house of the Father of me, monai polai. Of course, this is an adjective. It means many when used in the plural. Agrees with the noun here that it modifies. So many houses, or many dwelling places is probably more accurate. Asen, from ami, I am, third person plural, present active indicative. So there are, in my Father's house, there are many dwelling places. A, which means if with the indicative, the postpositive da, but if, may, and this, of course, is a negation usually used with the subjunctive, but there is no subjunctive here. It's simply a way of allowing for a negative thought. So if it were not that case, if that were not the case, apon, this is from Lego, I say, first person singular, aorist active indicative, and then on, a contraction of eon, I said, if, humen is the second person plural, pronouns, so in the dative, so I said if to you, and then the addition of a dame here, I would have said would be the idea that. Now here's a bit of a debate, of course, among translators. The punctuation, I think you know, is added later, so we don't know where the punctuation actually was. It's possible that we could put a period right there, and then it would be something on the order of, if it were not so, I would have told you. That would be sort of a construction of it. And then a new sentence begins with peruomai. The other alternative is that if it were not so, would I have told you that? And then here peruomai continues the same sentence, I am going to prepare a place for you. The traditional rendering was, if it were not so, I would have told you so, and hoti kind of functioning as a notion of told you that or told you so. And then I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go, and so on. So the meaning changes slightly. Either way, of course, the sense of it is not lost. The problem with the more current common translation, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you, is that we don't have any record, at least in John's Gospel, of Jesus making such a statement to them in advance, and it would have been more likely that such a statement would be recorded, which is an argument, at least to some degree, in favor of the earlier rendering. If it were not so, I would have told you that. I would have let you in on the point that your eternal prospects are somewhat different than you might have thought. But one way or another, the sense of it, I think, either way can be found to be consistent with what we otherwise know. Continuing, peruomai, I go. Hetoimasai, this is a aorist infinitive, and it is from etoimazo, which means to prepare. So I go to prepare. Topon, the accusative noun, means a place, and then humen, for you, the dative. Here I go to prepare a place for you. The addition of the The question mark there, of course, is strictly an editorial comment. It may or may not be there in the original rendering of this verse, so I'll leave that to your judgment as to how that should be understood. But one way or another, of course, Jesus is giving them a kind of assurance of his care for them. It is possible that Jesus is not really referring here about heaven. It could be that he's referring simply of, in a sense, of his body, in which you might say there's many dwelling places. That remains a somewhat minority view of this text, but it's certainly at least hypothetically possible.